Right now we're learning the Dvar Malchut. Yesterday, if you remember, the Rebbe said that the reason that the Ten Commandments are repeated in the Torah, once in this week's Torah portion and another time, right near the end of the Torah, before Moses leaves the Jewish people and they enter into the land of Israel, is because it's talking about two different aspects of the Ten Commandments. The first 10 aspects of the Ten Commandments is talking about the holiness of the Torah, how holy the Torah is, how godly the Torah is, how infinitely, incomprehensibly infinite the Torah is and powerful. The Torah comes from God Himself. Every word, every moment, right now, it's brand new. That's the Torah. And feeling the holiness and the greatness and the purity of the Torah. That's this week's Torah portion. In Parshas Et Hanan, in the end of the Torah, that's talking about how the Torah can be brought into the world. Preparing the Jewish people, preparing the world, giving the Jewish people the power, giving the world the ability to reveal the holiness of the Torah in the world, that the Torah should have an effect on the world. That's essentially what we said, and the Rebbe brought a lot of examples on how to do it. Okay, Tachlit Shleimut, the ultimate completion. 1 minute, let's do this here. Tachlit Shleimut, the ultimate completion of this is joining these two things together. That's what we learned about just now in Torah Or. Joining these two seeming opposites together, the world and God. Hagili the Atzmos of Hussein Sof, to reveal the essence of God, Ba'atzmuto and Mahuto, and God's very essence, His quintessence, God before He created the world. God higher than the spiritual, how He's creating the spiritual, to reveal that true, infinitely intense and real and good reality in this world. Lo kafishinim, so now is not how it is in Moses, like Moses, how Moses joined between the Jewish people and the world, and between God and the world, or God and the Jewish people. The Bnei Yisrael. Kafishinim sayim coming neshamas begufim, like the Jews are in the physical world. Umakablim as a gila, they can reveal the revelation of God themselves. So here we have three things involved. The essence of God being revealed, the essence of God being revealed in the world, which was done by Moses, right? So we have the essence of God, number one. Number two, being revealed. And number three, being revealed directly to each and every Jew. That's what it says. If we remember we learned Bati Lagani that every Jew is a holy temple to reveal the essence of God. Now, the holy temple benefited the whole world. There was peace in the whole world. Every Jew as a holy temple has the ability to reveal the Creator, good, peace, love in the whole entire world. So the Rebbe is saying there has to be three things here. Number one, the essence of God. That's what we got in Parshat Yitro. It should be revealed in the world. That we got in Et Hanan. Moses revealed it. But number three, that it should be revealed to each and every Jew, not by means of Moses, and eventually not even by means of the Jews. The whole world will yell out the oneness of God, because that's what there is. That's the truth. Right? God is really creating everything, and He's creating everything for a purpose, and God is found in that purpose. That purpose is that there's only one reality. Then the world will be infinitely good and real. We'll find out why everything is different from everything else. What purpose, what job everything contributes to everything, to the world, that's not found in any other detail. Somehow or other, every detail is necessary to make this one big picture of what God's oneness really is. Hainu, namely, that the dwelling itself will be made not by means of surrendering ourselves but the world will be a tzinor. It'll be a pipeline, a revelation, the Dvar Hashem of the Word of God, really. Mi'atzmuto u'mahuto, from God's real essence. Hadayar atzmo, that God Himself will be revealed in everything. They said by means of this, that a Jew learns Torah in this physical world in a way that tan l'shoni motecha, that when he learns the Torah, he's learning the Torah in a way of, I am saying the words of God right now. This is what God is saying. God is speaking now through me. Who naseh, then a Jew becomes a tzinor, he becomes like a pipeline, the gilui, to reveal God's essence. Not just like a television set that reveals to you what's happening, the football game that's happening right now somewhere else, but you just see a picture, right? It's talking about it's being revealed to you right here. You're in the game, you're participating in the game. It's not a game. Often in such a way, shahadira atzu, that the dwelling itself, namely the Jew himself, which is found in the world, he expresses and reveals the word of God, really. Just like Moses did. Like it says, Tan l'shoni motecha, when you say the words of Torah, it's just like Moses when Moses was speaking. The word of God is coming through your mouth. The thing is that Moses was aware that it's a word of God. And we just, we're aware that the Rebbe is aware, right? So the Rebbe is trying to say that I feel God and I want you to feel God. Not just that you should feel God because you know that I feel, and so there is such a thing in the world, but ideally it should be that you feel God the same way I do, the same way Moses does. Ad kafishahu, like it is, a person becomes one with God, so to speak. Just like the Holy Temple was one with God. Hagili lamata, the Israel, it's revealed below that God and the Jewish people are totally one. And this Paul Yehudi, a Jew, can bring about al derech zeh, also in the world, not just in the Jewish people become one with God, but also in the world. Shemetziu, the taktonim, that the whole entire world not just becomes a dwelling for God on itself. In other words, the dwelling is separate from the person, that God who dwells in it. But the whole existence of the world is that the word of God is revealed specifically through the world. Was the revelation of God's essence, which is found in the world. If you remember before, that's why you said the power of the commandments is so great, because commandments are things in the physical world, and the physical world was created before man. So somehow or other, the physical world can reveal a higher aspect of God than man can. Why is man higher? Because it says that man rose in God's thought first. God made everything for the sake of man, to do the commandments. Until the revelation of God's essence, and nimsa ba'olam, which is found in the world, that God alone, he has the ability that he can create something from nothing. In simple language, to see that everything in the world is a surprise. Everything in the world is a miracle. Everything. The street you walk on, the air, the trees, the birds, everything in the world is a miracle. All the people, all the human beings. To know how to react to it, to know what to do, that's what the Torah is here for. But the reason is that there's a necessary in all these things. Even though the first commandments that God gave, they are above, with incomparable to all the others that Moses gave, right? Well, again, how do we say that when the Jews got to Mount Sinai, so God said the first two commandments, the Jews heard it and they said it's too much. The Jews said, we can't take it, because the commandments weren't just that they heard God speaking, that they felt from their inside that the Creator that's creating them is speaking. And it was the voice was coming from within them. But God's voice wasn't just God's voice. What is God's voice? God creates the world from his speech. So God's voice is more real than the world is. The world comes from God's speech. But that's just God's speech called his lower speech, the speech that God uses to create the world. God's upper speech is the Torah. The Torah is also God's speech. But that's even more intense. It's even more real. It comes from even a deeper aspect of God. So the world is being created by God's speech. We don't feel that. If you feel it, then it would just be too awesome, right? Well, that's that thing that God creates the world from His speech, and that speech of God that creates the world. That's awesome. Well, the speech of God that gives the Torah is even more awesome. It's more real. It's more real. Well, who can take a thing like that? Says the Rebbe that that's what's going to be revealed in the world. The value of the thing. The value of it. I gave this example a lot of times before. I don't know if it's a good example, but maybe it is. Let's say, somebody gives you a nice fountain pen. Oh, thank you very much. I needed the fountain pen. Someone comes by you and says, wow, that fountain pen, where did you get that from? He says, oh, somebody gave me a present. Boy, that thing is worth $1 million. That is a genuine the Egyptian fountain pen from 800 years ago. Really? Yeah. I mean, that's a collector's item. That's a collector's item. Wow, it's really something. Then someone else comes to you and says, hey, where'd you get that pen from? He says, oh, it's nothing. It's nothing. No. I'm a big expert in, let me just have a look. I won't touch it. I don't believe it. That is Maimonides' pen. That thing is worth $100 million, right? I'll give you $100 million right now for it. Oh, this is really something, right? In other words, what happens? You're holding a regular pen. You thought it was worth $10, $30, right? Someone comes and says it's worth $1 million. Whoa. Then someone comes and says it's worth $100 million. Whoa, it's just a little pen. Could be worth so much. The same thing with the world. The world, we look at the world, that world is being created by God. Whoa, that's really something, right? No, that world is pure godliness itself. God, it's revealing God. The world, whoa. In other words, suddenly the world becomes tremendously valuable, intensely valuable and amazing. But the thing is, we also are intensely valuable and amazing, so we'll be able to take it, to appreciate it. That's what we're waiting for Moshiach to do, to reveal the essence of the Creator in the creation, how valuable, how precious, how miraculous the whole entire world is. How do we bring this about? By learning Torah. Al Yedei Limud Torah, by learning Torah and doing the commandments in the way that we feel the truth, that the Torah is really God's Torah, that not that He gave us 3,000 years ago, which is true, but He's giving to us right now, which is even more true. Like it says, V'yedaber al Elokim, that God spoke all these words. I think we skipped a little bit. Oh, it says there's the first two commandments. I am God. There shouldn't be any other gods. And then the Jewish people said they couldn't take it. That's where we were. And so Moses said, okay, I'll give the rest, the other 8 commandments. So it says Moses spoke and God was helping his voice. Hashem yanenu b'kol. God helped his voice so that all the Jewish people heard it was God speaking through Moses, but still it was a little bit dimmed down. But still that was pure godliness. And God gave us the power, lay more, that when we say the words of the Torah, even the Jewish people, when we're found in this physical world, also when we receive the Torah, when we say words of the Torah, we can receive in a little bit lower level than what Moses received, and we can, by means of our learning the Torah, we can make a revelation of godliness in the world. That's the Torah. That's pure godliness in the world. Kolomer, in other words, by means of the last commandments, Mizgala is revealed the completion and the Maila of the first commandments. By means of the 10 commandments that we're talking about in Parshas Et Hanan, that Moses spoke, is by means of those we reveal the holiness of the 10 commandments that God spoke in this week's Torah portion, by Yedaber Lemor, to every single Jew. And it was before God gave the Torah in this week's Torah portion. You look, we talked about this before. A sentence right before the Torah was given. God said all of these words, to say. And then He told the 10 commandments. Those 10 commandments are from God. To say means that God gave us power to say the words that God is saying and revealing in this world. When did that actually happen, that we have the power, lay more, to say? That was only when Moses gave, right before he went into the land of Israel. That's the second 10 commandments. That He gave us the power that we can reveal in the world the oneness of God. They said by means of this, it brought about by Malahalan, just like back then. And Mount Sinai, the Torah was given with fear and trepidation, and with trembling. Also now, just like it was in Mount Sinai, really. According to what we said before, so now we can also explain the connection between now that we're reading Parshat Yitro on this Shabbat. Okay, back then it's a little bit different than now. This year, it's on the 24th of the month of Shvat. Back then it was on the 20th of the month of Shvat. But the lessons that we can learn from it are certainly relevant because anything that happens in the Torah is eternal. So even if the coordinates are not exactly the same as they were back then, but back then it made an eternal connection that exists right now also. But nevertheless, we can still learn the lessons are the same. Okay, so it said that the Parshat Yitro back then in Tafshin Nun Beit that came on the 20th day of the month. Which month? The 11th month. Now this month is the 11th month. Shvat is the 11th month. The 11th month is the month of Shvat. And this is also 10 days after Yud Shvat. In our case, 14 days. This is 14 days after Yud Shvat, which Yud Shvat is the day of the passing away of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, right, in 1950. And this is the Shabbat that from it, all of the days of the week are blessed. Shabbat blesses all the days of the week. What are the days of the coming week? Back then, the days of the coming week was Kaf Beit Shvat, which that was by us, it was a couple days ago. I'm sorry, that's not. By us, it's going to be when? Another 2 days. When is it? Tomorrow, I think. Tomorrow. Where's my calendar? Here it is. Here's my calendar, trusty calendar. It is Thursday. Thursday is Kaf Beit Shvat. Kaf Beit Shvat is the day that the Rebbe's wife, which is the previous Rebbe's daughter, passed away. Hilula the Bat, and the daughter of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Okay, Chodesh, in other words, that's all happening in this month, the 10th day of Shvat. That was the previous Rebbe passed away. Here the Rebbe doesn't mention Tu B'Shvat. The 10th day of Shvat, the 22nd day of Shvat, which is the day that the previous Rebbe's daughter, the Rebbe's wife, passed away. The month itself is the 11th month. This is the number 11 is hinted at by 11 days from Chorev. The Jewish people should have taken, after the Torah was given, it should have taken them 11 days to get to Israel. It says really they made it in 3 days, but then they decided not to go into Israel, so it took them 40 years. Shekai, this refers to Echad Asar, 11 days. This refers to the Miyuchad Shebasara, 1/10, 11. This is the one God, which is revealed in the 10, which we talked about. The 10 was the 10 commandments, the 10 utterances that God created the world from. This is the one which is the head of all the 10 commandments. What's the one? The beginning of the commandments, the first word, Anochi, I am God, your God. Namely, 11 days from Chorev, this refers to the level of 1, 10, which is above the 1, 11, which is above 10, above the 10 commandments which were given in Chorev, the source of the 10 commandments. What's the source of the 10 commandments? God, the essence of God. This is the level of the crown of God, which is above all the 10 Sefirot. The essence of God above the whole entire creation, which just, by the way, the Rebbe doesn't say that here, but that's the reason why it's possible that this is talking about the God that gave the Torah. So it's possible for a person to, God forbid, go against the whole Torah. And nevertheless, if he just repents and returns to God, so that's the number 1, which is above the 10. So that connects him to the 1, which is above the 10, which does away with all of his mistakes and sins and transgressions, so that he can return back fresh and do the 10 commandments. On this, the 11th month itself, this is the 11th month, this is the passing away of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, is on the 10th day of the month, which was, like it was revealed, in the 11th day of the month. it's connected to the number 10, Seder Ishtalshlut, part of the world. Now, just to say also in a parenthetical statement that the Rebbe, the successor, in other words, our Rebbe, he assumed the leadership a year later, also on the 10th, but really in effect began to be the Rebbe on the 11th day of Shvat, which is Shvat is the 11th month, we said. And it happened to be that the year was Tafshin Yud Aleph, which is Tafshin Yud Aleph is also 11. So it's the 11th day of the 11th month of the 11th year. Okay. So number 11. This whole idea of 11 is revealing the essence and the crown which goes over the 10 powers of our soul, above, higher, and even higher, talking about the essence of God, which is found in this crown of God, in this 11, to reveal it down here in the physical world. Like we said, the connection between the first commandments, the 10 commandments that God gave in this Torah portion, and the last 10 commandments that Moses gave, the repetition, in the beginning of Dvar. This is revealed in a way which is even higher on this month, the 11th month. What's the Rebbe doing here? This is just an innuendo over here. The Rebbe is not trying to show us how we can make all these connections and gematrias and interesting things, and to show how smart he is, and you can be smart also. And so, that is a fact. I mean, it's very impressive, right? What the Rebbe said, but that's not what the goal. The goal over here is to make us crazy. The goal is to make us dissatisfied with the world until Moshiach comes. Not just being dissatisfied because the Rebbe is dissatisfied, or because it says in the books you're supposed to be dissatisfied, but to really feel that the world is missing something really, really important. It's almost like telling a blind person, trying to convince a blind person that he's blind, that there's such a thing as seeing, right? He doesn't listen. Let me get along the way I am. It's being okay. But if he really longs for seeing, so it makes him crazy. One hand, the person could say, listen, leave the guy alone. He's got enough problems as it is. He's blind. Let him be blind. He says, no, if he really feels that there is a possibility for him to see, then he'll do everything he can, and he'll be willing to do everything he can in a normal way, of course, to acquire sight. Right? He'll do everything he can. Here we're saying, for sure, the world is blind. The world does not see godliness. It's deaf. It doesn't hear godliness, doesn't understand godliness. A little tiny bit. So the Rebbe is trying to tell us, listen, guys, you don't realize it's possible for you to see. It's possible for you to see what real reality is, how valuable the world is, how real the world is, how miraculous, how happy. What a big surprise everything in the world is, right? To feel it. It's possible. It says, yeah, maybe it's possible, but I don't feel it. Well, you should want to feel it because it's possible. You should feel bad that you don't feel it. And that bad, bitter feeling that you feel you don't feel it will encourage you to do everything possible. One of the things that'll bring Mashiach is being happy. So you got to be bitter and miserable, but you got to be happy. If you're not happy, right, you have to be, I'm doing something to improve the situation, right? But let's take our example of the blind person, God forbid. At least now I know I'm blind, right? At least now I'm not, I know that there's something better, something better. So he says, that's the whole thing. The Rebbe says, we're now in the 11th month. 11th month is telling us there's a number 11. There's something much better than what we're doing now, much better than the world is away now. Then there will be the revelation of the 11 in the physical world. Excuse me. Whether in the months or whether in the days of the month, like we talked about before. The month is according to the moon. The days of the month, that's according to the sun. Yesh Lomer, we can say, Shemekiv and Shazeh, Ba comes Acharei Giloi, the revelation of the 10th day of the month. So the 11th day of the month, it has an advantage of drawing down into the 10, the soul of the 10. The soul of the number 10 is 11. The one, but to open in a way that you because you're supposed to continually elevate in holy things, increase in doing holy things. Shemi said that this for this, we can come to the 11th day of the month of the 11th month. But we can say that this is also the whole novelty of what? Of giving the 10 commandments, the first 10 commandments by means of God. And God is the number, the one that rides on the 10. After it says, La'achrei shene'amru, Gam, also the 10 commandments by means of Moses, which is Moses, what's the number 10, bringing into the world. What does it mean? Last year we read the 10 commandments, right, by Moses. We read the whole Torah. The Torah ends up that Moses is giving the 10 commandments to the Jewish people. Well, this year we're reading about the 10 commandments is given by God. So it comes out that we're reading the 10 commandments by God after the 10 commandments of Moses, right? In the Torah, every year, the 10 commandments of God in this week's Torah portion comes first. And then afterwards comes the book of Deuteronomy, where Moses repeats it. That's this year. But now we have next year. Next year, so we're reading after Moses, after Deuteronomy of last year. So now we're reading, so it ends up that the 10 commandments of God are being read after the 10 commandments of Moses. Whoa, excuse me. Wait a second, I lost the place. What's going on over here? What happened over here? Why did I lost the place? My finger made the thing. Oh, here it is. That's right. Well, Friday, and especially Kasher, when the Shabbat, the Parshas Yitro, this week's Torah portion, this week's Shabbat, and we read the whole entire Torah of the portion, including also the 10 Commandments. Vayidaber Elokim is called more. This is, we bless before rereading it. And the person who gets called up blesses before and blesses afterwards. Then God, it says, make the blessing means that God is reading and he's learning the Torah face to face with you. Even more and even more power. We're making a blessing. How much more so when we learn this in the Torah and the rest of the days of the week? Like we're supposed to, it says, the Chabad people, we learn the Torah with Rashi every day of the week we learn. Then the 20th day of the month, the 20th day of the 11th month, the number 20, well, that's today, right? What is that what we said? That's today. Yes, that's today. The 20th day of the month is today. So the 20th day of the month is the gematria of 20 is the gematria of Keter. Keter. How do we see its gematria Keter? Well, let's see. Esrim. 70, 300, 370. 200, that's 570. 570, 580, 500, 620. Esrim is 620. What's the numerical value of Keter? 620. Taf Reish is 620. Esrim, now we're in the 20th day of the month. 20th day of the month hints at this level of crown, which we said that's the number 11. That's the one that rides on the 10. That's the 11th, like we said before. From this, yes, we come afterwards to the 21st day of the month. That's going to be tomorrow. That's Ach Tov Yisrael. Ach is 21. Only good for the Jewish people. Ach Tov Yisrael. 11, that's the 11 days from the 10th day of Shvat. So 11 days from the 10th day, that's 21. And afterwards, there comes the 22, which 22nd day of the month, that's the day that the Rebbe's wife passed away. But that's also 2 times 11. And this corresponds to also the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet of the Torah. That by means of this is drawn down all of the blessings into an inner way. So therefore, we can take the numerical value of every day and show how that indicates on what's supposed to be revealing the essence of God in this physical world. Yesh lo sif, we can also add on the kasher to attach this also to the Parshat Mishpatim, which is going to be next week. We're going to read that we begin to read this in Mincha of Shabbat. The Parsha Shel Yomim, also the days which are going to be coming, also including Chav Beit Shvat. Okay, and then by the Rebbe, the 20th was on Shabbat, so the 22nd was when they were reading Mishpatim. Okay, nevertheless, what do we learn in Mishpatim? What happened in Mishpatim? This week's Torah portion, we learn about the 10 Commandments. Next week's Torah portion, which is Mishpatim, is a continuation. It's talking about all these details of the commandments. And some of them are details which are very, very not spiritual, right? Not spiritual, are very, very mundane, monetary, damage laws of damages. A person steals an ox, a person steals a sheep, a person's ox damages somebody else's ox. These are the laws that to be put in front of them. And these are the laws that are supposed to be put in front of the Jewish people. The rabbis say, just like the first ones, the 10 Commandments were from Mount Sinai, also these little details of laws, seemingly very mundane, insignificant laws, are also from the same God, same Mount Sinai, same power, same holiness. I know, Shagama mitzvahs sichlis, even the logical commandments, mishpatim, they're logical commandments. Hakashura, which are connected to the Gidrei Tachtonim with the physical world, they also come from Mount Sinai, from God's essence and from God's being. But diuk, just like the first commandments come from Mount Sinai, just like it says, just like back then is in fear, also now is in fear. You know what I think I'm going to do is, last year we learned a book called Mitzvos Hashem, which is the 613 commandments explained in a very short way, but it's very, very accurate and very good. I think maybe I'll put that up this year. I'll just put it up so that people can read that also. Okay. And I also said I was going to put up the music that I did, which I did not do it. Okay, I'll try to do that. But then this will be revealed in a way. And these are the commandments. These are the mitzvot. When you say this, it means you're pointing at something. To a way of tasim lifnehem. These are the commandments you can put in front of them. In other words, such mundane and logical commandments, right? What to do in case of damages. You entrusted something to somebody and he lost it, it got stolen, right? Does he have to pay? Do you have to, who lose? These are laws which don't have anything to do with God. They don't have anything to do with religion, right? Do they? Says that's what you think. This is exactly God's will, just like the 10 Commandments, just like the first of the 10 Commandments, I am God that took you out of Egypt, is the same thing, the same exact commandment as, if my ox damages your ox, with its foot, then it's a different law than if it damaged it with its horns, and if it's on my property, on your property. Why do you care about this? What does God care about this? The answer is that God really cares, and that these things are, even though they're mundane and physical, but this is from the essence of God. God said to Moses, Lo talel datcha, don't say to the Jewish people, I'll teach them this halacha once or twice or three times, and then I'll just tell the Jewish people what to do, and I won't explain to them the reasons. Don't say so, Moses. And especially Torah, that the Torah is be'etzem l'mayla mi'havana v'asaga, and the Torah is above understanding. So Moses can just say, listen, Jews, I'm going to do you a big favor. I'm giving you these commandments that God is telling you to do. Don't ask questions, just do them. Just do what I say. Don't ask questions. You're not going to understand anyway because it's godly. Said God to Moses, don't say that. Don't let it even arise on your mind. Moses, therefore it says, Asher tasim lifneim. God said you have to take these laws and put it inside of them. Kashulchan aruch, like a set table, muchan lechol mipnei adam. Give them all of the reasons. Shagam tamia davar, also the reasons for the commandments. as much as you can, Allah latet, you should give to the Jewish people. But Pinimus, that's why they have these yeshivas where thousands of young men sit and they learn the Torah. And they learn the Torah laws which are not even practical, but the idea that they're learning God's will, like we said before in the Torah Or, if the Jewish people fix themselves up, that fixes up the world. The world depends on the Jewish people. So true, you have to be in the world and we have to have an army and we have to have these things, yes. But don't think that that's enough, right? The reason we have an army and the reason you have to work in jobs because God says you have to. You have to do it. But God also says, that same God says, but don't forget about who's telling you to make an army and to work in a job. It's me, and that's the idea of the Torah. Every detail is important. And when a person learns the Torah, so it's the job of the teachers to put it inside of them, so that the Jewish people should understand it in an inner way, so that it becomes like their own flesh and blood. And to add on, according to the Jewish, to the Yerushalmi, the Talmud, the Jerusalem Talmud, it says the tasim lifneim, the word tasim, that you should put tasim bifneim. This is from the language of a sima. Sima means a precious treasure house. Also the hidden treasures of the Torah, pinimis of the secrets of the Torah, on themselves, which they're concealed, just like a treasure is concealed. And nevertheless, which is connected to the inside of God. Also, you have to put in front of them. You also have to teach them the secrets of the Torah in a revealed way. That's the idea of Hasidut, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. And now let's do the Yom Yom.